Kitty, I feel like it's so lovely that we both finally have this opportunity to sit down and have a chat, given that we're both sort of fighting along quite similar lines in daily life.
I've sort of been aware of your work via Twitter, but we've never actually met.
Yeah, well, I've been following the work of Swappra for a couple of years now, and I just think it's absolutely amazing everything you're doing. How did it all first come about?
Well, we came together, there was a group of us, we didn't know each other, we were all brought together by my colleague Anna Lapwood, a soprano, who brought us together as a sort of group of people that she had met through her career, just to sort of chat about the sort of gender disparity within the industry. And from it, you know, we came up with all these ideas, we could do this and we could do that, and it was all sort of getting a bit out of hand. And so we decided, well, why don't we set up an organisation and try and register as a charity, and actually try and put some of these crazy ideas into practice. So that's what we've tried to do over the last 3 years, but it's sort of become a full-time job, despite the fact that none of us are being paid. But it's a real labour of love, and luckily all of us are so passionate about it that we don't resent the fact that we're not paid for it.
And I was reading that you're about to start a new mentorship scheme. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's been one of our plans right from the start. So we've started we've piloted it over the lockdown with a sort of program called Swappra Make Space, where we've set up some sessions for women who work in areas of the music industry where women are sort of the minority. So we had one for brass player. Oh no, we've got one for brass players coming up next week. We had one for female percussionists. We had one for stage management, and I think there's plans for a director's one as well. And that was to sort of talk about what the challenges are and what that community needs, each of those communities need, so that we can take that information and that data and set up some sort of mentorship scheme. So the mentorship scheme itself is a little bit embryonic at the moment. So these pilot sessions have been really to see what we need to do and how we can help.
I saw the announcement about the Women in Brass one, and I misread it because I was on the train. I thought it said Women in Brass. And I was like, oh, change of direction.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I wrote Women in Brass on a Facebook status, and I thought that sounds a bit, I need to change that. Change it to Women Who Work in Brass. No, even that doesn't work.
One of the things I find really interesting is that so often people will say, oh no, we've made so much progress and we've sort of done it now. And actually, I mean, there was that big thing a couple of months ago with the announcement of the singer who had a baby, and it was sort of listed as a disaster. And I remember seeing everyone get so cross about that on Twitter, rightly so. And you think, actually, there is still such a long way to go before people realise that having a family is a normal thing.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. There's great work being done, especially in the gender sort of balance area. It's a conversation that's been happening for a few years in the classical industry, and there's loads of brilliant work being done by a lot of the organisations and the companies. But there's still a long way to go, and it's a slow process. And the family thing, I think, is newer than the gender thing. In terms of people just being a bit braver to actually come forward and say, actually, why shouldn't we have the same rights as people who work in kind of salaried normal jobs? Having a family is a normal thing that the majority of us will do. Why shouldn't we expect the same sort of rights and the same not special treatment, but just the ability to do both? Because in this day and age, how many families can afford for one parent to just stop working? It's not possible, and all of us in this industry have trained for so many years to do what we do. Why should having a family put an end to that?
Now, we're obviously also both here because we love Leeds and everything to do with Leeds and Leeds Lieder in particular. And I realised recently that actually Leeds Lieder have commissioned so many amazing female composers: Hannah Kendall, Cheryl Frances Hode, Judith Bingham, all these sort of figureheads of composers at the moment, and also just program that music all the time. And your concert that's coming up is a brilliant example of this. I think you're singing one of my favourite Rebecca Clark songs, The Seal Man.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, it's a masterpiece. I don't know why it is now becoming more and more done. Actually, when I sit on panels in song competitions, it's almost always there. So it is becoming one of the classics. But I don't know how it wasn't when I was at music college. It was quite new to me in the last few years. Certainly, yeah. But
Is it a sort of conscious thing when you're looking at recitals? Do you think, right, I want to include something by women, or is it just happening more naturally now?
For me, it's really conscious. The this program that we're doing, this other Eden, is basically the CD that Joe and I did with my parents 5-6 years ago. But that was before Swappra, and it didn't, I'm ashamed to say, include any female composers. So it's now that I do all this work with Swappra, I feel really under quite a lot of pressure to practice what I preach. So having really not known any music by women before I started Swappra, really, Clara Schumann, a few, obviously. But I feel now that it's my responsibility to be leading the way with this a little bit. And, I can't be making demands on this industry to be more inclusive of women and then not make an effort there myself. So when we decided to program this, I think Joe thought, well, we're putting this together. Let's reunite this other Eden gang. And I thought, well, yeah, but we don't have any female composers in that. So we've consciously sat down and go, well, what could we add to this to make it a bit more gender equal? But
I think I was the same. Sorry, I think I was the same at Pembroke when I first started. I didn't know any choral music by women other than a couple of pieces of Judith Weir, and again, we sort of had this conscious thing of saying we'll do one piece by women in every service, and now it's just a part of our standard repertoire, and it almost is. I'm more likely to turn to something by a woman probably because it's just what we've been singing the whole time. And as you say with the Clark, they're masterpieces, and I don't know about you, but I get so cross that other people just don't believe they exist.
Yeah, I think we just have to be the generation that are normalizing it, as you say. I think I've been thinking about making a new album, and obviously my first thought was, well, I should do an album of female composers, but actually it's time that we stopped thinking of it that way and making it an unusual thing for a composer to be female, and just make sure that we're including female composers within our programs of the sort of standard canon, normalizing it for the next generation coming through. And we really found that with this latest Swappra project that we've produced, Forgotten Voices, where we were sort of unearthing lesser known female composers and asked students from the music colleges to record them for us for International Women's Day week. We found, actually, we asked them to make any suggestions if they already had rep, and they had tons of it. So I actually think it is becoming more normal in that sort of generation than it was for us. I didn't do any music by women when I was at college. It just never occurred to me.
Yeah. You mentioned your parents being involved with the concert, and I do have to ask, what's it like being on stage with them? Is it nice? Do you enjoy it, or is it a bit more stressful?
No, it's lovely, particularly at the moment, because it's the only time I can actually be in a room with them. We're not in a bubble, and my mum has been shielding, so we haven't been able to go into each other's houses or hug or anything for basically a year. And we're really close family, and before lockdown we spent so much time together, partly because they're my full-time nannies, also because we would always spend Sundays together, have Sunday lunch. So we've really, really missed that. So these concerts that we've done this year together, this one, and we did one at Wigmore Hall together at Christmas, have been so special for us to be able to be together. But aside from the pandemic, I feel so kind of secure with my most loving and accepting team there sitting right next to me on the stage. It's so easy to feel so pressured and so nervous and think, who's watching this, who's judging me, who's thinking, oh, that wasn't very good. whereas I've got 2 people on stage who love me unconditionally and don't care if I forget the words or sing badly. That's an amazing feeling. It's really, really helps. And I'm so proud of them when they're reading. I have to really disconnect a little bit emotionally so that I don't get too teary to sing sometimes, because I'm just so proud, and it's lovely.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to tuning in, and I wish you all the best with it. It sounds like it's going to be a brilliant concert.
Thank you. I'm sorry we probably won't get to see you. I don't think we're there at the same time, are we?
No, we'll probably just miss each other. We can wave on the train.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to talk to you, Anna.
Yeah, you too.